That Tuesday started like most of the others, but it ended in a way I think about almost every day. I came home earlier than usual, which almost never happened, because a client canceled last minute, and for once, the interstate wasn't a parking lot. I texted Haley that I'd be home soon, thinking I'd surprise her with Thai food and maybe, if the timing was right, finally talk about that trip we'd been meaning to take. We hadn't gone anywhere together in almost a year. I was in a good mood, actually. A little tired, sure, but hopeful. I even hummed a bit on the drive home, which now just feels ridiculous in hindsight. The house was quiet when I walked in. Not unusual for that time of day, but something was still, like unnaturally still. The kind of stillness you get when you walk into a room that was just vacated by someone trying not to be caught. Then I saw it. A single piece of paper lying perfectly flat on the kitchen table. No envelope. No crumpling. Just placed. I don't know why I walked straight toward it. Maybe instinct. Maybe the way it was almost too visible. It wasn't hidden, but it wasn't supposed to be found either. It was a receipt. From a countryside hotel about 2 hours away, one of those boutique places with the freestanding bathtubs and wildflower arrangements in every room. I scanned the date. I didn't need to, I already knew. It matched Haley's last business trip down to the hour. The weekend she was supposed to be in Chicago shooting for a luxury skincare brand. She even sent me photos, flat lays of serums and soft lighting and neatly folded towels. I'd commented on one of them, "Looks cozy." She'd hearted the message and replied, "Long day." But yeah, but the receipt was from a different place entirely. Not Chicago, not even close. And then I saw the name on it, L. Carter. No room number, no extra charges. Just the stay itself. Clean, efficient. Like whoever stayed there had nothing to hide or everything. My stomach knotted up, but I didn't panic. Not yet. I told myself maybe it was for a client or a colleague. Maybe she was just the one who picked up the tab. I told myself a lot of things in those first 30 seconds. But then I turned toward the coat rack. That's when I saw the jacket. It wasn't mine. Charcoal gray, thick wool, probably expensive. Looked like it came from one of those minimalist brands Haley liked. The kind with no logos and price tags that didn't match the simplicity of the design. I walked over, touched the sleeve. That's when I caught the scent. Cologne. Earthy. Clean. Not overpowering, but deliberate. It wasn't the cheap stuff. Not the kind you'd get as a gift from a department store sampler. It was subtle, confident. A scent that didn't ask permission. It wasn't mine, and I'd never smelled it on anyone we knew. Not her dad. Not her brother. Not anyone who should have had a jacket hanging in our house. I just stood there for a while, holding that jacket like it might start talking if I stared long enough. I heard the front door open around 5 minutes later. Haley walked in like nothing was out of place. Humming, actually. Humming the same melody I'd caught her playing in the car last week. Something French. She saw me by the coat rack and tilted her head. "Oh, that?" she asked, nodding toward the jacket like it was a misplaced umbrella. "Props from the shoot. Weird campaign we're working on, couples mix-up outfits. Total chaos but fun." She said it with this breezy tone that made me second-guess everything. She was already walking past me as she spoke, dropping her purse on the bench near the stairs like she always did. I didn't say anything. Not yet. She turned back, and that's when she saw the paper on the table. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't gasp. She just walked over and picked it up. Slow, deliberate. Folded it neatly in half and slid it into her purse like it was a receipt for gum. "God, I've been looking for that everywhere," she said with a laugh that didn't touch her eyes. "Client filed it under the wrong name. L. Carter. I think that's our assistant's boyfriend or something. I don't know. I was supposed to expense that." I nodded. Or maybe I didn't. I can't remember. All I know is I didn't say what I was thinking. "Why didn't you mention this hotel before? Why wasn't this in your itinerary? Who is L. Carter, really? And why does this room charge feel like a bullet wrapped in linen?" But I didn't say any of that. I just watched as she pulled the jacket off the hook and disappeared upstairs, already calling out something about needing to shower before her client Zoom later. I stood there alone. And that's when it hit me, not just the suspicion but the weight of knowing. Not proving, not arguing. Just knowing. There's a moment in every lie when it stops being just words. It starts to breathe. It sits next to you. Sleeps in your bed. Smiles from across the dinner table. And you can pretend not to see it. You can keep brushing your teeth next to it in the mirror. But it's there. That night, Haley made pasta, her I'm too busy to care but still feel guilty meal. She asked about my day, half listened to the answer, scrolled through her phone while pretending to be present. I watched her, studied her like a stranger. I think she knew I knew. And I think I knew she knew I wouldn't do anything about it. Not yet. And honestly, I didn't want to. I wasn't ready. You'd think finding the receipt would be the tipping point. You'd think holding another man's jacket in your hands would ignite something. Anger, confrontation, rage. But it didn't. It just made me quiet. It made me look back at 1,000 little things I hadn't noticed before. Like how she started locking her phone. Like how she lost her ring at the gym but never replaced it. How she'd started sleeping with her back turned. How she stopped saying goodnight. All the warning signs were there. Not flashing red, but glowing faint orange, like a pilot light slowly dying out. A week before that night, we had a fight in the car. Something stupid. I think I asked her if she still wanted to go visit her mom that weekend. And she snapped. Said I was always interfering. Always planning things. Always hovering. I'd laughed it off. Made a joke about being the clingy one in the relationship. But then she said it. No eye contact. Just this flat, exhausted voice as she stared out the window. You only get in the way of my life. At the time, it felt like heat of the moment stuff. Dramatic, nothing more. But now, those words echo differently. They sound like the thesis she's been writing for months. That was the night I started leaving my phone face up on the counter. That was the night I started paying attention to the details. That was the night I stopped brushing off the feeling that something was off. Because something was. And it was just getting started. After that night, nothing was the same. Not outwardly, we still had breakfast, still brushed our teeth side by side, still shared grocery lists and weekend plans. But inside, I was slipping into a different version of myself. One that watched, logged, noted. I stopped assuming the best, and I started noticing the small things that used to slide by like background noise. Haley had always been glued to her phone. Part of her job, she said. Social media strategist, photographer, digital campaign lead, whatever the latest title was. But now it wasn't just her always being on it. It was where she was using it. She started taking it with her into the bathroom. Not for quick checks, but for 20, 30 minutes. With the door locked, she'd laugh softly from behind it sometimes. Like whoever she was messaging was funnier than I'd ever been. I tried not to notice at first. Tried to play it cool. But there was this gnawing feeling in my chest. Like I was the only one pretending things were fine. And the more I tried to act normal, the more the cracks started showing. Like how she canceled Sunday brunch with my mom 2 weekends in a row. Said there was a work emergency. But she came home without her camera, without her gear. Said she left it at the studio. Didn't kiss me when she walked through the door. Just peeled off her scarf, dumped her bag, and went straight to the bedroom. I followed her once, instinctively. She didn't hear me. She was in the closet, facing away, slipping off her coat. And I saw her lift her scarf to her nose and breathe it in. Just for a second. Her eyes closed like it was some kind of comfort. I knew that scent. It was subtle but unfamiliar. Sandalwood. With something faintly citrusy behind it. Definitely not mine. Later that night, I reached for her hand in bed. Just out of habit. She flinched. Not dramatically, just a small reflex like her body forgot who I was. She mumbled something about being tired and turned away. When I told her I missed her, actually said the words, she gave me this tired smile and said, "You're just bored, Ethan. That's all. I'm here." But she wasn't. Not really. That was the first time I realized love can disappear without leaving the room. She started laughing more. Not with me, just at her phone. Texts probably. I caught glimpses of messages pop up when she forgot to tilt the screen. Names I didn't recognize. A few saved under initials. K. T. R. Justine W. I asked who they were. She shrugged. Oh, new client contacts. You wouldn't know them. I let it slide, but it started adding up, like the time I offered to drive her to one of her early shoots. And she said no, too fast. Said she was already running late. She kissed my cheek, barely, and said, "Be back by noon." Noon turned into 3. She smelled like perfume she never wore. Told me she spilled a bottle while setting up a product *T. I asked where the shoot was. She hesitated, then said, "Same studio as last week." I nodded, but I already knew she wasn't there. That same week, I checked her shared calendar on a whim, something we both used to coordinate schedules. Hers was empty. No meetings. No shoots. Just blank. It didn't make sense. She was too busy for dinner but had no bookings? I didn't confront her. Not yet, but I wrote it down. Mentally. I started keeping track of what she said and what she did. Little inconsistencies that on their own could be nothing, but together they painted a picture I wasn't ready to look at yet. At one point, she started sleeping in later. Not unusual, except she wasn't a late sleeper. Even on weekends, she'd usually wake up before me, scroll her phone, get coffee started. But now she'd sleep past 10, burying her head under the covers like she didn't want to be seen. One morning, I woke up and found her phone vibrating under the pillow. I didn't touch it. I just watched her for a minute, her face turned away, her fingers curled loosely like she was bracing for something. When she finally stirred and saw me looking, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Bad dreams," she murmured. I nodded. "About what?" She shrugged, pulling the blanket over her shoulder. "Just being chased. Doesn't matter." But it did, because I knew she was already running. I started preparing quietly, deliberately, not because I wanted to catch her, not even because I wanted revenge, but because something inside me said I needed to be ready for whatever came next. I wasn't going to be blindsided. I opened a new email account, shifted some of my paychecks into a different bank, opened a secure storage folder in the cloud, private, unshared, started scanning documents, filing away essentials. The kinds of things you don't think about until you're suddenly alone. I even reached out to a lawyer, just to ask questions. I told myself, it was just research, just being prepared. And through all this, I never raised my voice, never accused her, never snooped or hacked or screamed. I just watched. I logged. I waited. One night, we were sitting on the couch. A rerun was playing, some sitcom we used to love but barely watched anymore. She was on her phone. I was pretending to read something, but I was just watching her reflection in the dark screen of the TV. She smiled at whatever came through, a private kind of smile. And then, quick muscle memory. She hit the lock button when I leaned slightly toward her. I looked back at the screen. My voice was calm when I said, "You happy?" She blinked. "What?" "You. Right now. With us. Are you happy?" She hesitated. That pause, maybe 2 seconds, was louder than any answer. Then she nodded. "Of course I am. Why would you ask that?" I shrugged. "You've just felt far away lately." She gave me this soft, practiced smile. The kind people give when they're trying not to laugh at your concern. "You're imagining things. Don't go getting all emotional on me, Ethan." Then she leaned her head on my shoulder like that was enough to prove her point. I didn't say another word, but something cracked in me that night. Not broke, not yet, but cracked. Like ice on a lake, just before the first real plunge. I started checking our home devices more closely. Our smart speakers, the shared folders, the synced calendars. She didn't realize I could still see her upload sometimes, that her phone occasionally pushed photos and videos into the cloud before she deleted them. One of those videos uploaded at 2:14 a.m. the next Friday. I didn't open it. Not right away. I stared at the thumbnail for hours. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I told myself it could be anything. Product video. A joke from a friend. Anything but what I feared. But by then, my fear wasn't paranoia anymore. It was a clock ticking toward confirmation. And I knew something else too, something colder than the fear. If she ever looked me in the eye and told me to leave, I would. I'd walk away with no yelling, no begging, no final monologue. Because I was already halfway gone. The video sat there for 2 days before I opened it. I'd stared at the thumbnail so long I memorized it. Just a blurry glimpse, soft lighting, a corner of a hotel room, the edge of a bed. It didn't show her face. No names, no obvious giveaway. But I knew. I knew in the same way you know a thunderstorm is coming long before the clouds roll in. The air changes. It had uploaded automatically to our shared cloud folder, the one we'd set up together years ago to keep travel photos, grocery lists, even half-finished furniture measurements. We hadn't touched it in months, maybe longer, but it still synced with her phone. Quietly, in the background, like some forgotten witness. It was labeled with a generic timestamp, VID_0214. I stared at it one more time, then pressed play. The camera angle was low, tilted slightly upward like the phone had been set on a nightstand or maybe slipped between pillows. I could hear her laugh before I even saw her. That same light, breathy laugh she used when she wasn't thinking about who was listening. And then he spoke. I didn't know his voice. Not at first. But something about the way he said her name. Haley. Casually, like it was his to say, like it belonged in his mouth, made my stomach twist. He walked into frame first. T-shirt, black jeans, a beaded leather bracelet on his wrist. I paused the video. I knew that bracelet. I'd seen it in a photo months ago, tagged on social media by one of Haley's coworkers. A guy from the studio. Lucas. That was his name. I remembered because Haley had rolled her eyes when I asked about him. He's 26, Ethan. He wears mesh shirts and eats cold pizza for breakfast. Trust me, he's not my type. I'd laughed then. I believed her. Now he was in a hotel room. Our hotel room, it felt like. Not literally, but figuratively, it was the kind of place we used to book for weekend getaways. A place with candles and robes and overpriced chocolate in a bowl. Then she appeared. Blurry at first, walking into the frame with a glass of wine. She was barefoot. Her hair was tied up the way she always wore it when she wanted to feel relaxed but still beautiful. I watched the moment he reached for her waist, pulling her into his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then she laughed again. The same laugh that used to pull me out of a bad day. I turned the video off. I didn't need to see more. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't scream or cry. I just sat there, staring at the wall, the silence pressing against my chest like a weight I hadn't trained to carry. It wasn't the physicality that broke me. It was the int asterisk Macy. The way she smiled at him, like she trusted him, like she was safe there, like she'd found something with him that I hadn't seen on her face in months. It was all the little things. The soft touch of her fingers on his shoulder. The way her voice dropped when she spoke to him. Full of that quiet affection people only use when they believe no one else is watching. I had been watching. I just didn't want to see. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my best friend. Not the coworker who once pulled me aside after a dinner party and asked, "Hey man, everything okay with Haley?" She seemed distracted. I wanted to ask him what he meant back then, but I didn't. I shrugged it off. Now I understood. It was all there. In hindsight, it always is. The hotel receipt. The cologne. The coat she claimed was a prop. The way she slid the paper off the table without flinching. The way she locked her phone. Took calls outside. Laughed into screens while her face turned away from mine. The signs weren't subtle. I was just hopeful. Hope makes you blind in strange ways. You start filling in blanks with the best-case scenario. You convince yourself that your gut is just tired, that love can't be wrong just because it feels off. But your gut always knows. It's the only part of you that doesn't lie. I spent the rest of that night walking. Not far, just laps around the block. The air was sharp, almost winter, and I welcomed it. Every cold breath steadied me. Every step gave me space. I didn't want to talk. Didn't want to text. I just needed distance from the version of me who still hoped it was all a misunderstanding. When I got home, Haley was already asleep, or pretending to be. She was curled up on the edge of the bed, her phone plugged in but still within reach. I watched her for a long time, not with hate, not even anger, just with this quiet, hollow recognition that the person I was looking at didn't exist anymore. Not for me. And maybe she never did. I lay down without touching her, without speaking. I closed my eyes and let the darkness wrap around me. The silence between us wasn't loud anymore. It was final. The next morning, she made coffee like nothing had changed. She kissed my shoulder lightly, told me I looked tired. I nodded. She asked if I wanted to do dinner that weekend. Maybe that Thai place we used to like. Just us, she said, stirring her coffee. I feel like we haven't had a proper date in forever. I smiled. Or I think I did. Sure, I said. That sounds nice. Because I wasn't ready to act. Not yet. I needed to be sure I could walk away clean. With dignity. With control. If she wanted to play pretend, I'd let her. For now. But in the background, my mind was moving. I changed my passwords. Froze the credit cards we shared. Opened a separate savings account under a different email. I backed up the video, encrypted it, and locked it behind two-factor authentication. I wasn't preparing for a war. I was preparing for an ending. A quiet one. No drama. No raised voices. Just a slow, deliberate disappearance. Because when someone shows you who they are, when they hand you the truth in high-definition color and surround sound, you don't need to argue. You don't even need an apology. You just need to let go. And I was already letting go. Every time she kissed me and I didn't flinch. Every time she lied and I smiled. Every time she called me, babe. And I said it back like a reflex. I was rehearsing my exit. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. And that was more dangerous than anything else. They say when you're betrayed, there are two choices. Explode or detach. I'd already done my grieving. Quietly, silently, like a man rehearsing loss in private. What came next wasn't revenge. It wasn't rage. It was logistics. Cold. Methodical. Clean. I started with the accounts. We had shared almost everything: bank accounts, streaming services, a joint grocery app, the Wi-Fi password we'd chosen together on a rainy night in 2018. All of it had become a kind of digital gravity keeping me in orbit around her. I needed to cut loose. The first thing I did was reroute my direct deposit into a separate account she didn't know existed. I had opened it months earlier when the suspicions first started creeping in. Back then, it felt paranoid. Now it felt prophetic. Then came the passwords. Every account, from Amazon to Dropbox, got changed. The cloud folder, the one that caught her slip-up with the video, was locked and hidden under a new encrypted ID. I deleted her access to everything that had once made our lives seamless. She didn't notice. Or she pretended not to. Maybe she thought I was just updating things. Maybe she didn't care. Next, I reviewed our subscriptions. Utilities, insurance, smart home controls. Most were under my name. The few that weren't, I swapped without fanfare. The security system was the most satisfying. One click, and she no longer had the ability to disarm it. I disabled her fingerprint on the front door lock while she was in the shower. Quiet. Efficient. No alarms. She didn't even try the code later. She came and went like she always had. But if she ever stopped to log into anything, if she tried to check our budget tracker or open the thermostat app, she'd be met with a screen that said she didn't belong here anymore. That was the whole point. I wasn't kicking her out. Not yet. I wasn't even confronting her. I was just drawing the perimeter, redefining the walls of my life. Slowly, silently, so when the collapse came, it would fall on her side of the fence, not mine. I started sleeping deeper. Not better, not happier, but steadier. There was something oddly empowering about detachment. I didn't need to snoop through her texts anymore. I didn't need to obsess over her lies. I knew now. I had seen it. I had heard her voice in that hotel room, light and playful in a way I hadn't heard in months. She gave him the part of her I used to know, and that version of her was gone now. She didn't even realize I had already started saying goodbye. The plan wasn't revenge. It was clarity. I met with a lawyer again. This time, not for questions. This time, I brought documentation. I showed the video, the email records, the financial reports. My lawyer didn't flinch. He'd seen worse. But he did give me a look. The kind that says, you waited long enough. We drafted everything that day. Asset protection. Legal filing plans. A blueprint for what would happen once I pulled the final pin. I signed nothing, not yet, but everything was ready. One envelope, one timestamp, one phone call away. It was strange, walking around the house with this secret strength in my pocket. She laughed at a meme over dinner, and I nodded. She kissed my neck on her way out the door, and I smiled. I even offered to pick up groceries one night, something I hadn't done in weeks, and she looked at me like I just remembered how to be a husband. I watched her pack for another overnight shoot. This time she was careful. New suitcase. Tags removed. No lingering receipts. She even left her camera bag half empty, like she wanted me to peek and find proof she was telling the truth. I said nothing. I helped her zip it up. You okay? She asked, pausing at the doorway. I looked her in the eye, and for the first time in weeks, I wasn't acting. Yeah, I said. I'm good. She smiled, relieved, and leaned in to kiss me. I'll be back Sunday night. Take your time, I said, and I meant it. The second the door shut behind her, I moved. I packed a duffel, just a few things. Essentials, clothes, IDs, external drives, anything I might need if I didn't come back right away. Then I walked from room to room, turning off lights like I was tucking the house in. Before I left, I stood in the doorway of the bedroom. The bed was made. Her side was covered in throw pillows she hadn't touched in weeks. I stared at it, that empty half of something that used to mean us, and I whispered a thank you to whatever voice inside me had told me not to wait any longer. I left the house without a sound. I didn't slam the door. I didn't leave a note. I just walked out. 1 hour later, her phone lost access to our bank accounts. 2 hours later, she couldn't open our home dashboard. By the next morning, her name had been removed from every joint file we'd ever created, financial, legal, medical. All of it. She texted me around 9 a.m. the next day. Hey, did you reset the Nest app? I can't log in. Also, did we change banks or something? My card's acting weird. I didn't reply. The silence said enough. An hour after that, she called. I let it ring. Then she called again. Then again. The messages started piling in. Ethan, are you okay? Did something happen? I'm getting locked out of everything. Seriously, what's going on? Still, I said nothing. It wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. By noon, she called my sister. Then my friend Michael. She even emailed me from her work account. Subject line, please just tell me what's happening. I kept walking. I spent that weekend in a small hotel outside the city. Not the kind she would ever pick, no curated lobby art, no influencer vibe. Just clean sheets and quiet. I ordered room service, watched bad movies, and sat in stillness that didn't need to be filled with explanations. She tried one last time Saturday night. I don't know what I did. If this is about something I said, or forgot, or Ethan, I'm sorry. Please, just talk to me. That was the message that told me everything I needed to know. Not once did she say what she thought she'd done. Because she knew. But she also knew denial is easier when you don't name the truth. By Sunday, I was calm. Not happy, not whole, but steady. The kind of steady that comes when you stop fighting for something already dead. I returned home before she did. Reset the alarm. Changed the locks. She came back to a house that wouldn't let her in. I watched from the upstairs window as she punched in the code over and over. Her suitcase by her side. Her phone in one hand. Confusion on her face. I waited until she stepped back, called my name out once, just loud enough to cut the quiet. Then I walked away from the window and shut the blinds. She could call. She could guess. She could plead. But she wouldn't find me. Because I wasn't gone. I had simply taken everything I gave her and brought it back to where it always belonged. With me. The morning after she came back, everything she touched broke. First, it was the smart lock. She tried the code again, then her fingerprint, then the app. Nothing worked. She stood there on the front porch, wrapped in her oversized sweater, tapping her screen like maybe if she just tried harder, the system would remember her. But the house didn't know her anymore. I watched her from inside for a minute, just long enough to confirm it. She didn't have a plan. No backup. No clue what had happened. Eventually, she walked away from the door. Not down the street, just to the front steps. She sat, her phone still in her hand. Like maybe I'd forgotten she existed and would remember soon. But I didn't forget. I had made sure of that. She called me 6 times in a row. I let it ring every time. No voicemails. Just silence, a new kind of silence. One where she no longer had access to the story she used to write me out of. By noon, she was back in her car. She circled the block 3 times. Parked. Left. Came back an hour later. She tried the garage. The side door. Even knocked on the window of the laundry room like maybe I'd peek out and say this was all a joke. I didn't. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, watching our smart hub light up with failed login attempts. She was locked out of the thermostat, the cameras, the garage, the Wi-Fi. And then she got an email. Subject line, confirmation. Access privileges revoked. From the home automation company. The same one I had registered under my name alone. The message was clear. She no longer belonged here. She tried the banking app next. The one with our savings account. The one I had drained down to the required minimum to keep it open. Everything else had been moved months earlier. She must have sat in her car for 20 minutes refreshing the login, trying different passwords, confirming her identity. She never got past the verification screen. At 2:17 p.m. I got a notification from the insurance company. A request had been made to confirm the cancellation of our joint policy. She must have called after realizing the email she was used to didn't work anymore. The agent told her the policy had been closed 2 days earlier. That was when the first message came in. Ethan, what is going on? I can't get into anything. Please tell me you're okay. That made me pause, the way she phrased it. Like she thought something had happened to me, not something I'd done. Like she still believed I was the type of man who would leave a door open for her, even after all this. I didn't answer. I just watched as her texts became more frantic. She messaged my sister, who didn't reply. My coworker, who did. Once with 2 words. Ask Ethan. By evening, her battery must have been dying. She pulled into a Starbucks 5 minutes from the house. I knew because her location was still pinging from an old device setting I hadn't shut off yet. She connected to the public Wi-Fi and tried to access the email again. Still nothing. She tried her cloud storage. Her emergency folder. The shared documents she probably assumed I didn't know about. But I'd cleaned all of it. Not deleted, not destroyed, just removed her access. The way she'd once removed pieces of truth from my world without me noticing. Now it was her turn. That night she called again. 7 times. Then 8. Then 10. The 11th time she left a message. Her voice cracked halfway through. I don't know what's happening. I can't log into anything. The house, it won't let me in. Your number won't ring through sometimes. Did I do something? I mean, I know I've been distant. I know I've made mistakes. But this? Ethan, this is cruel. She stopped for a second like she was trying to compose herself. Then her voice lowered. You're scaring me. Please, just let me talk to you. I deserve that, don't I? And maybe she did. But if she wanted clarity, she should have given it first. I played the message twice. Not because I missed her voice, but because I wanted to remember the exact moment she felt powerless. Not out of spite, but because I'd lived in that same space for months, watching her lie without flinching, gaslight me with practiced smiles, and replace in asterisk Macy with absence. She slept somewhere else that night. A hotel, probably. Not the countryside one this time. Not the one with rose-scented soaps and soft robes and borrowed lies. She texted again in the morning. Where are you? Can we talk? I don't understand what I did to deserve this. Please don't disappear like this. We're not broken beyond repair. Can you just tell me what you want? It was that last one that stayed with me. What I wanted. I wanted honesty. I wanted her to admit it. To stop hiding behind professionalism and creative excuses and work dinners that lasted till noon the next day. I wanted her to tell me who L. Carter really was. I wanted her to explain why she used to take photos of sunsets and send them to me with captions like, "Wish you were here," and now only posted them online for strangers. I wanted a lot of things, but mostly I wanted silence. Not the kind that leaves you aching, the kind that sets you free. She came back a few days later. Same porch, same expression, but this time no knocking. She just sat there for an hour, scrolling, pacing, writing messages I never saw. Then she left again. The next night, she showed up with her sister. They stood on the front lawn talking in hushed tones. Her sister looked up at the windows like maybe someone inside would wave. I didn't. 10 minutes later, they left. Then came the messages to mutual friends. To my brother. To our old neighbor. Some didn't reply. A few did. One of them texted me afterward and said, "She looks wrecked." I said nothing. She was wrecked. But not by me. The damage had been planted long ago. In late-night texts she thought I'd never see. In trips planned with other names on the reservations. In the way she stopped reaching for my hand even when no one was watching. She called me one more time that week. I didn't answer. She left a final voicemail. "I know I hurt you. I know I should have been honest. But Ethan, I didn't think you'd actually disappear. I thought we'd yell. I thought you'd cry. I thought we'd fight and then figure it out. But this? You're erasing me. I don't even know who I am without this house. Without you. Please. I'm sorry." That was the last time she tried to reach me directly. The next day, I got a call from our old property manager. She tried to use the spare key in the office. He told her the lease was under review, that he couldn't help her, that her name wasn't listed anymore. She must have realized then. I hadn't just left. I had made it impossible to come back. I had taken every access point she used to move through my life and closed it. No grand speech, no shouting match, no dramatic exit, just cold calculation. She always said I was too soft, too passive. But this was steel. The next week, I walked through the house and realized something strange. It finally felt like mine again. The corners weren't haunted by questions. The walls didn't echo anymore. Even the kitchen, where she used to laugh while plating pasta like it was a photo shoot, felt neutral, clean. The silence that filled the house wasn't lonely. It was earned. It was honest. It was mine. Ethan became Miles Hudson in a city where no one knew his name. He rented a small loft, started freelance consulting, and found comfort in structure. No photos of the past, no trace of Haley. He rebuilt his days with quiet rituals. Coffee at sunrise, long walks, silence. He didn't chase closure. He didn't want revenge. Just peace. Each morning, his reflection looked more like someone free. Not broken. Not bitter. Just reborn. Months later, a letter arrived for Haley. The house she once owned had been sold and slated for demolition. Ethan had separated the land quietly, finalized the deal without a word. She stood outside, staring at the place they once called home. But it wasn't hers anymore. Even the ground beneath her feet had vanished. Those words she once said, "You only get in the way of my life," finally echoed back. He was gone, and she had set him free.